Welcome to the Strong Women's Club, episode number 100.
This is the Strong Women's Club, where successful women share their behind-the-scenes stories of how they got to where they are today. Join us.
Hi, everybody. This is Edie Berg. Thank you so much for joining me. So in a minute, I'm going to be broadcasting to you on the podcast my live Facebook recording. I'm doing a live Facebook video in a couple of minutes, and I'm going to be using that audio and putting it on here for the podcast. So this is the first time I'm doing that. Let's see how it works out. So let's go. Let's talk about why I'm doing a milestone podcast. So I don't really do very well with arbitrary dates. Like, we don't really celebrate Valentine's Day ever or Mother's Day. And I always kind of feel that they're over commercialized holidays that have no real meaning. And why shouldn't every day be Valentine's Day? And why shouldn't I always love my mom and always tell her that I care and things like that? So it always feels a little bit fake to me. On the other hand, I do think that we should celebrate small things, even though my 100th episode to me is not very small. It's actually kind of big. So, but I do think we should stop and commemorate and have little celebrations, even at home. Like, say, every Friday night for us is a small Sabbath celebration, right, for the Shabbat with my kids and my parents and my husband's family. And it's special. So every week it's important to me. And it's the same as this episode now. This episode now is important to me in that it's really taken a lot of work. 100 episodes is really symbolic of a lot of work. And on the Strong Women's Club podcast, it's more than 100 episodes because I have also small episodes. I have one episode a week usually where I interview a successful woman all over the world. I talk about her work and, all behind the scenes, how she manages her life, what her daily routine is, how she made her choices, what prices, what does she have to pay along the way? What did she have to give up? Things like that, so that we can learn and be inspired and have kind of like mini mentoring sessions from those people. But in addition to that, I've also done almost 29 mini episodes. So the mini episodes are 5 to 10 minutes, closer to 5 minutes. They're very short. And I've changed those up all along the way. I started off doing tips and tricks, and then I tried to do brags, right? So I tried to get voicemail from people to come in, to call in and just leave something that they're proud of to talk about. And I'll, put it up on my podcast, which I will still do. The widget is still up on my website. So if you want to leave any kind of voicemail or any kind of a brag or anything like that, if you want, then I will put that up on the podcast and I will promote you and what you're doing and talk about, what you're doing, what you're proud of. So that's that. And then I left that because it wasn't really super popular. It was kind of hard to get women to call in, which is the whole reason when I was doing it, was to get people to be able to be proud of what they do. And I was inspired by another Facebook group here in Israel where they have a weekly brag. And that's such a good idea. And it's such a hard thing to do. Let's do it on the podcast as well. But people just weren't calling in. So I left that. Officially left it, even though unofficially you please do call in if you like, and that widget is on the website, the Strong Women's Club website. So then what I did with that I moved that into like 5-minute episodes about a strong Jewish woman who is now dead, which made her historic to me. So I did some that are like an ancient history and some that are very recent history. And I actually loved doing that podcast a lot. I learned a lot, and I think they came out fun because I did a lot of sound bites from all over the internet, and they were pretty thoroughly researched. And I really just took bits and pieces, I think, of their lives and put it together into something that was very easy to consume. However, the amount of work that went into that was almost 2 days a week, 2 full days, that including another day that it takes me to put this podcast together, really just didn't leave me much time for the rest of my business. So that's unacceptable. And it wasn't really, there was no return on that investment other than me learning about these women, which obviously is worthwhile, but it doesn't take as long as putting a podcast together. So I ditched that. And now what I'm doing is I've just started a new series of mini leadership lessons. And we'll see how that goes. Again, I'm learning and I'm teaching, and this is very on mark with what the rest of my podcast is about and the other things that I'm doing in my business. So hopefully, even though it still takes a lot of time to do, there will be a clearer return on investment in that people will learn and will come to the podcast to hear what I'm talking about, what I'm teaching regarding leadership in online business and things like that, because I don't do a lot of lessons. And I think it's important to also teach, which is what I'm trying to get into and doing more of this year. So let's talk about, I have my notes up here. So that's why I'm sometimes looking at the camera and sometimes looking over here at the other screen. So what else did I do last year? Last year, at the end of December, end of 2016, I left my corporate position, which is a very big deal, so that I could concentrate on the Strong Women's Club and the business behind it. And it's really only been 6 months since then. It feels like a lifetime. It really does feel like a long time. And on the other hand, I'm super impatient about why aren't things moving faster and why aren't I, advancing faster and things should be better and growing faster. And I'm very impatient with that. So I'm trying to teach myself to look back and see what did I actually accomplish, which is another thing that I'm doing today on this 100th episode of the Strong Women's Club podcast. So I left my job. My other job, so that I was working on this already, right? So this podcast has been live for exactly 2 years or just over 2 years. Every week, I only missed 1 week out of the last 2 years of this podcast. When I was recently on vacation in Costa Rica, I just missed a week. Can you imagine? I mean, for me, it was like unbelievable. I just missed 1 week, and I'm not exactly proud of that, but also you have to learn where you can let go a little bit. It should have been more intentional. It's kind of, I just let it kind of fade away. And I really should do those kind of things more intentional, but there's no reason why I can't, take a vacation for a week or two from the podcast. The other thing I did is I produced the Strong Jewish Women Summit, which was a lot of work, and it was very successful and was a very big deal for me. It was the first virtual summit that I have ever done. And for that, I interviewed 26 Jewish women leaders, entrepreneurs, and people who are thought leaders around Jewish daily life. I have a lot of pluses and some, some things I learned from that as well. So not all of it was perfect, but it was, all together, it was, I could definitely call it a success. And I will be telling you soon about the next summit that I'm going to be doing for the second half of this year. But now we're doing a recap of what went on last year. So let's continue with that. What else? I had a lot of interesting business meetings also. So I said I just mentioned that we spent a vacation time in Costa Rica, but before that I spent 1 week in New York City, and I was there for some business meetings for the Strong Women's Club, and they were all with very, very large Jewish organizations, and hopefully we're building some collaborations and some work together around networking and education for Jewish women globally in the online space, which is my specialty. And that's what I'm teaching about now. And that is what I'm promoting and working on and building these connections with. And also I have some meetings set up in DC coming up all along those same lines with very large organizations for Jewish women, which I'm finding very exciting, but I really can't tell you very much about at the moment because I'm just building it. So I just can't. So that's that. Now, what's going on for the next part of the rest of 2017 and the next part of 2018? Because I'm not doing like a yearly thing. It's not from, Jewish New Year's to Jewish New Year's, and it's not from the first of 2017 to the 1st of 2018. What I'm doing is every 50 episodes of the podcast, which is almost a year, basically. So for the next 50 episodes, I'm going to be continuing, interviewing incredible women all over the world, about their journeys, about their work. And at the moment, I'm continuing with Jewish women, and we'll see how that develops. If you have any suggestions or any requests for who you would like to have interviewed on the program, I would love to hear. You can just leave it here in the comments, and I will, if it suits the general purpose of the Strong Women's Club podcast, then I will try and have them on for sure. So that's one thing. That's for your input. And in general, also, like if you have input, if you had feedback, if you want to change something, if you want to add something, if you have an idea, if you want to take part, if you want to volunteer, if you want to, lend a hand to what we're working on in empowering Jewish women all over the world, then I am also looking for, actually, I'm looking at the moment for a summer intern for social media. So if somebody knows of somebody who would like to learn how to podcast and learn how to do online business and already knows a little bit about social media, then I'm looking for an intern for the summer. And that could actually be very valuable for the both of us, which is how it's supposed to work. So that's the podcast. And as far as the shorter version, the second episode per week goes, we'll have to see how that goes, because it really is a lot of work to get 2 episodes of that a week. And it has to be strategic, right? You have to be getting out of it what you're putting into it. So if it takes me a whole day to put 1 episode together, even though it might not seem like it takes a day, it does take a day at least. Sometimes it takes 2 half days because I listen, I plan and then I think about it and then I do some like dry runs and I write and then I write my script, kind of my pointers and stuff like that. And then I go back the next day, fix it up, record, re-record, send it to the editor, get it sent back, fix it up again. So it's quite the process. So if I'm finding that doing 2 episodes a week is not really worth it, then I'm going to stop that second one. I'm not stopping the big one though. Podcasting is an incredible format. Everybody who would like to get, especially into the online sphere of business, really should look into podcasting and see if they can use that as a marketing tool. It's very, very effective for growing connections, building your own network. For me, it has been phenomenal in that respect. I had a good network to start off with, but now, it's just not, you can't even compare. So that's podcasting. I'm not giving it up. And also I like to say that I'm a podcaster, which I am. And speaking of podcasting and podcasters, I'm going to be speaking and running a session at Podcast Movement 2017, which is in Anaheim in August. So I'm traveling again to the United States, which is only a plus for me. I love traveling. This isn't the same kind of, when I say traveling, I mean like, exploring like I did in Costa Rica, and not just going to a place that I've already been for business. That's more of a business meetings. It's not real traveling to me, but it is actually traveling, and I love flying. I always, flying to me is like it's like a mini vacation. Like you have to sit in one place and you have to watch movies and you have to read a book and you get to, play with your computer, or you get to listen to music, you get to listen to your podcast and you get to take notes, you get, all those kind of things. It's kind of extra time that I would not normally have. It's just sitting in a chair and not moving. So, or you have to sleep, it's like people bring you food, even though the food is usually kind of, most of it's not edible, but it's inedible. But, still, I love to fly. So the longer the better. So this your Podcast Movement is in Anaheim, which is quite the flight from Tel Aviv. And then on the way back, as I said, I'm stopping in DC for some business meetings. But while I'm at Podcast Movement, I'm going to be running a session, a roundtable session, which I pitched to them. I sent them a very detailed pitch about having roundtable sessions there, and more for the advanced podcasting community, because there isn't a lot of content at these conferences in the past for people who already really kind of know it all. They don't, obviously you can't know it all, but you know pretty well how to monetize, you know pretty well how to market, you know pretty well, how to grow your following, all that kind of thing. And doesn't mean that you're implementing it, but you pretty much know all those things. Not only that, the people who are giving the lectures, right? So you're already in that community for such a long time. We know each other. So I felt it was missing something for advanced podcasting community. And what I think we really need is to be able to talk to each other, brainstorm with each other, talk about the problems, talk about the hardships, the things that are coming up, more current events, kind of on a theoretical line of thinking. Where is podcasting going? How can it be used as I said, more strategically for businesses, which is what interests me very much. How podcasters can really make a difference in the world and make a difference for good. So, which is another thing I'm trying to do. And listen to what other people are saying. And, same as what I talk about masterminds and how I participated in mastermind and how I'm running masterminds. It's the same kind of a concept where people brainstorm and feed off of each other's experience, cheerlead each other, right? So you help each other. Sometimes you get caught on one small thought and keeps going on in your head, and then another person will just say two words and you think, obviously I thought about that, but I didn't really know it until somebody says it to you. So, some things are so obvious. So that it really helps to talk to somebody else who is in the same kind of field as you are. So we're all using a podcasting platform for all different kinds of fields. Most of us are talking about different things. So I pitched that idea. They liked it. They said that they were already considering something similar. And that's what I'm doing over there at Podcast Movement in Anaheim. And I'm hoping to get to some really good pictures and then maybe a little bit of video. And I might be able to put that up on my website and continue that and beginning to speak for organizations talking about podcasting as a medium for growing your business, strategic podcasting, talking about empowering women inside of large corporations, as well as women entrepreneurs who are just starting out, and especially who want to do online businesses, which is what I'm an expert in. So that is that. Let's keep going before I bore everybody. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, I'm just looking at my notes here. Oh, I just wanted to finish up talking about what's going on in my family and on a personal note. So you may know that my husband Eyal is a radiologist in the United States, and he's been working in the U.S. for close to 10 years, 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, flying every 2 weeks to work there. So that is over. We are done with that. Thankfully, he has taken a position here in Israel, which is very, very exciting. One, on a personal note, in that he's at home all the time, and it's just fantastic. We're just living a regular life like everybody else is living. We live in the same house all the time. So we love that. Or speaking for myself, I love that. The other thing is that we're building a brand new hospital here in Israel. It's called Asuta Ashdod, and he's head of the radiology department there, which I'm very proud of. He's very proud of, and it's a very exciting opportunity to be part of building a hospital from zero, right? Buying all of the machines and building the walls and figuring out and getting all of your staff, everybody, choosing all the doctors, choosing all the support staff, being a part of that is kind of pioneering and exciting for him. So that's what's going on with him. As far as my kids go, my eldest son, Yoni, finished the army after almost 5 years of being in the Israeli army. He is now working at Checkpoint full time, and he has been accepted to medical school in October. He just needs to now wait to see where else he's accepted to. So he might be doing a double program at the Technion here in Israel, which is like the MIT for the rest of the world, where he'll be doing both engineering and medical school at the same time. It's a very prestigious program. I hope he does it. He has his background is in cybersecurity in the Army. He has a lot of relevant physics and computer background. So hopefully he'll do that. If not, he'll go to Jerusalem. The Hebrew University is also considered a very, very good school. So we'll see what happens with that. In any case, we're proud of him. Kol hakavod, Yoni. My daughter, Maya, she is 21. She also finished her Army service. She was the commander of the periscope simulator in the Navy, the Israeli Navy. So she finished that, and she did her exam, her university entrance exam. She did extremely well. So that is behind her, so she can basically get into anything she wants. But what she wants to do is get in another year, not this October, but for the following October. And what she's doing in the meantime is she's working full time. She's taking care. She's a nanny. She's taking care of a baby full time. Another 50% position on top of that on the weekends and evenings. She's working for the Sea Scouts, so that she's working 150%. So she's saving lots of money to travel with her girlfriend. So that's very exciting, and obviously happy for her. My third son, Razi, he just finished high school and he's very, very involved in robotics, and for the last 4 or 5 years. And he's won all kinds of prizes, robotics prizes, and he was accepted into a robotics unit in the army. So he had to sign extra time. So he will be 4 years in the Israeli army instead of 3. And he starts that in December. So from now until December, God only knows what he's going to be doing at the moment. He spends all his time in his bedroom, which is downstairs at like half basement level, doing artificial intelligence and machine learning on his computer. And it's very hard to get him off of there and get into the fresh air and sunlight, which is what I'm trying to do all the time. And he says there's nothing I can do about it. So hopefully he'll get out, he'll work, and he'll travel before he gets stuck into the Israeli army. But so he's done very well. And my last son, Mickey, is just finished the 10th grade. He's going into the 11th grade. He's currently in the Sea Scouts camp for a whole month, getting another sailing license for the next level up. I don't know what it is. I think it's called whalers. The Vietnamese in Hebrew, I think they're called whalers in English. And also learning how to be a good leader. He's a leader in the Sea Scouts, so they're doing some leadership lessons. And it's kind of quite tough there. As well as that, he was a leader at a surfing camp for a couple of weeks, a day camp, which my nephew attends. So that's fun. It's all good with him as well. So everybody's healthy, and which is the best. And at home. So that's it for wrapping up professional and personal information for the last 50 episodes and the next 50 episodes. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I would love to get your input as to who you would like to hear interviewed and what you would like to see. I did not tell you, but my next summit, I'm going to be producing another summit, which will be in November. I'm just getting it together now. It's going to be Strong Women in Israel, the Strong Women of Israel Summit. So all Israeli women this time, and from all different fields. And I'm going to try to do some episodes more face-to-face, on location interviews. Hopefully that'll be more compelling and interesting. It is to me. So, which is a big reason why I'm doing all of this. And we'll be able to empower and highlight many Israeli women. So I'm just putting that all together, getting sponsors, thinking of who should be on the summit. And that will be produced probably in November. It will be launched in November. So that's going to be between the Jewish holidays and the end of year secular holidays, Christmas and Hanukkah, and New Year's. So November is the best time for that. That's it. That's my update. And I hope this came out all right. I haven't done a Facebook Live in a long time, although I would like to be doing them more often. Maybe I will be doing that. Also, my call to action for the end of this video is please subscribe to the podcast. The podcast is called the Strong Women's Club Podcast. Best way to do it is to go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Android, any kind of a podcast catcher will take you to my program, the Strong Women's Club. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And actually, I can do this is a little bit easier than regular podcasting. So maybe I'll do this more often. It's a pleasure to have you all here. And I'll share this video into the private group also. Thank you so much for joining me. Ciao for now, Litrot. Okay, so that was a recording of a Facebook Live that I did in honor of the 100th episode, or the official 100th episode of the Strong Women's Club podcast, even though it's more like 130 episodes. And that was a very personal and professional update as to what I have planned and what I have done. It's good for me to look back and good for me to look forwards. There are other things that I'll be doing moving forwards into 2018, which I'm also excited about, but because I don't know exactly what to call them and exactly what they'll look like, I did not present them on the podcast. There'll be time for that in the future. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast and part of the Strong Women's Club. I appreciate you. Of course, there would be no podcast without the listeners, so I really do thank you for joining me each week. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. It'll just make your life easier. And it also helps me quite a bit. So go and subscribe and you'll have the show automatically downloaded to whatever device you're listening to your podcasts on each week. Take care, everybody. Litrot.